give you guys a little bit of a change of scene this week. If you watch my TikTok videos, you will have seen this space before. I don't work out of a co-working space. My father-in-law has an office in Midtown Manhattan, and he actually gave me a desk in his office. This isn't my office, this is just like a boardroom. My desk is in what used to be basically a storage room. It's not very glamorous, but it is free. And when you are working in a startup environment, you kind of have to prioritize your spend. And at the moment, unfortunately, my working environment is not high on the spend priority list. Interesting things on the cards this week, and hopefully I'm going to see a little bit more movement, because I think you probably heard the frustration last week, particularly at the end of last week, where it felt like nothing had really moved ahead. In fact, I'd taken a couple of steps back. So tonight I am meeting with the creative team to go through the next creative round for the Dirtbag brand. So really excited to see that. We're also going to be talking about the names for the skincare brand. This has been a major source of frustration and stress for me. I do genuinely believe that a name's kind of just a name, and it's about the whole brand that you build around it. That said, I think that the product that I'm working on is quite unique, and I really need to nail the name. So, working on that. I hope that we get some movement traction and a bit of a breakthrough on that this week. Tomorrow I'm actually going to go and see another space for Dirtbag in downtown Manhattan on the Lower East Side. I actually put in a proposal for the space that I've shown you previously, the one that has the courtyard at the back, just today. And so I'm really excited to see where that goes. That said, I know that commercial leases take a really long time to negotiate, and I don't want to end up months down that path, then find out that it's not going to happen and have to start the search all over again. So I want to keep the pipeline full. So going to go and see another space tomorrow. I will be bringing you with me, but keep your fingers crossed that it is a viable option, because the price is not bad, despite being like a couple of blocks in a good direction from the one that I've already put the proposal in on. On the whole, really hoping that we get some action this week, because last week drove me nuts. Anyway, I will see you tomorrow, probably when we go and look at that space. Until then, have a good night. I wish you guys could see just how long it just took me to set up the tripod that my camera is now sitting on. I decided to invest in a tripod because normally I have my camera set on top of like a foam roller and a bunch of books and a whole bunch of like things that I found around my apartment or around the office to get this to an appropriate height so I can kind of just chat to you. But I decided that I've got the camera, I might as well spend the 30 bucks for the tripod. The problem is the tripod is actually very robust for 30 bucks and probably more tripod than I need. So it took me a little while to figure out how to use it. Anyway, here we are now. So I have a confession. I went to go and see that space downtown yesterday that I was telling you about, and I didn't record any content of me talking about it in the space. It turns out that I have quite an aversion to vlogging or capturing content or whatever it is in public. So that's definitely something I'm going to have to work on if I really plan on taking on this journey. Otherwise, I think this is going to get really boring if all it is me like yapping at you. I did, however, record a bunch of content of the space, like video of the space, so I can show it to you. It's just not me talking in the space. I'll show it to you in just a sec, but before then, I thought it might be helpful if I tell you how I actually found the space. So the space isn't actually available for lease, technically. What happened is that my husband's friend's son works for a capital management company that have a bunch of properties in their portfolio, and they have this space that they use mostly for pop-ups and galleries, like gallery pop-ups and these sorts of things, and boutiques and so on and so forth. They have had it vacant for about a year because they want to find the right tenant for the space. It's in a very kind of up and coming street. They keep the space very, very well. It's what my broker calls white box, which means that it is very clean and neat and well done, but there's no real personality to it. So you can kind of make it into anything you want, but it's not like a totally raw finish. You know how you see like commercial spaces sometimes when you're walking past and it's just like concrete. It's not that kind of raw box. It's kind of quite well finished. Anyway, let me walk you through the space and you'll see what I mean. So at the front is these two big glass windows because it's a double frontage, and they have two bays in front of them, like, or behind them as you walk into the space. So you walk down kind of a little corridor, like glass corridor type thing, to get into the space, which I think is actually kind of interesting. At the back, there is yet another kind of larger space, and then a kind of more of a wet space. So like where the bathroom and kitchen and things like that might be. There is a bathroom there at the moment, but no kitchen. Out the back, there's actually no courtyard, which is what I fell in love with the last space that I had a proposal out on, and I still do have a proposal out on. But I think that there is enough about this space that I could still do something really interesting with, both from a customer perspective and from like a design/business perspective. The really interesting thing about this one is that the basement is actually very well finished and very usable. The basement in the other one is very raw, so it is usable, but it kind of looks like it would be a cockroach nest if you didn't pay a lot of attention to it. It's very rough. The basement in this one that I saw yesterday is a lot more finished. It was being used at some point as an office, so it's very well lit. It has electricity to it. You can, like, it's set up well. It's got proper flooring. Everything is sealed. It's quite good. So I could use that kind of as is from day one without actually getting into any design or anything like that if I was just using it as storage, for example. So I plan on putting a proposal in on that today. That's going to be a lot of the work that I'm doing today, is putting together my proposal to make sure that it's super compelling from a landlord perspective. When I finally get a space, I will actually show you what the successful proposal looked like so that you can see what that kind of looks like and the kind of things that you need to include. The other thing that I've done in the last few days is actually get the first round of creative back on the brand, so for Dirtbag, for the laundry brand. I am really excited about the direction this is taking and where it's going. I will talk you through it in just a second because I would love for you to see it, at least see like the first version. You saw the kind of previous directions, and this is the first version where it actually starts to make it mine. So I'm really happy with the direction. I want to iterate on it a little bit, but I love the approach that they've taken overall. So yeah, let's go through it. So you might remember that there were two directions that we had for this kind of creative, and this was the one that I ended up choosing and the path that I went down. I'm not going to try and walk you through the whole thing. I will go quite quickly through this just to kind of give you a sense. But if you are watching this and you have any views and you want to share them, please do. I'm more than open to kind of feedback and different perspectives and those sorts of things. So, Concept one, the logo type and the brand mark. So this is the kind of word mark and the kind of hero logo direction. I think this is really interesting. I'm really into it being kind of quite pretty and beautiful and a little bit retro. I think it contrasts really nicely with the name Dirtbag, which kind of gives trash, and the idea that we're making it beautiful, I quite like. I'm of two minds about the New York part in the top right. It will be a trademark, so I don't know if that's like a little bit weird that it says New York and not trademark. But my New Yorker husband thinks that it is awesome, understandably. The alternative word mark is like this, which is this jumble of letters. I really love this as a direction because it's supposed to be like the letters are in a machine, like all moving around. There is obviously the ability to use both versions, and so I think that's probably the approach that we're going to go down. So here you start to see how those might look as type kind of all together, like how it might fall apart and those sorts of things. This is the color palette that's being proposed. You'll start to see this in action as I walk you through the different kind of mock-ups and things like that. I do really like the color palette. What I'm not sure on at the moment is if it's right for a laundry concept. I think it's very distinct for a laundry concept, but I also think it's kind of like giving organic wine bar. Like, I don't know that it feels kind of clean enough for a laundry concept, but happy to be proven otherwise. So this is what it might look like from a brand perspective, like with the logo in different ways and those sorts of things. And then this is what the photography concept looks like that is being proposed. The idea here is that these are different dirt bags, so like different characters that could be shot, and I could build out stories around those. And then this is what they might look like on like paste ups, for example, or in ads and those sorts of things. Speaking of paste ups, here are another examples of paste ups. The thing that is not like totally vibing for me at the moment is the text when it's in this format, when it's like laid out like this. And I don't know if it's just because like this is obviously a mock-up, they haven't tried to like make it look beautiful, but the text just kind of, it doesn't look neat enough for me. And I think I want it to be neat, to be a contrast to the messiness of kind of this version. I think I want the other version to be quite neat. This is then an A-frame that, might sit outside the space. This is the truck, like the delivery truck, which I'm not going to sugarcoat this. I fucking love it. I think it is so like distinct, and I think it is so fun. This is kind of like a mock-up of what window might look like. I really like the jumble of letters, but I also really like the contrast of this. So I think the two work well together, and I'm okay with having two different versions. What merch might look like, what more merch, and like this is starting to get into laundry bag territory. Our laundry bags are not going to look like that. That's very small, obviously, but you get the idea. I think this is quite interesting. And then what social might look like. I was lucky enough that the agency that I'm working with are really into the idea. So they actually did two concepts for me, which was not the plan. But this one is a different approach where the whole thing is made to feel like the care tag on a garment of clothing. So this is what the logo might look like. And then they also have this iconography, which obviously everyone is familiar with this iconography. Even if you don't know what they mean, you will have seen them. And so then this is how it might all come together. The idea that the logo is like part of this kind of care tag lockup, which I think is super interesting approach. I'm not sure it's the direction that I want to go, but I love the thinking of this. Then this is kind of type treatment. So how all the same idea of it being jumbled, but the idea here is that when you have like your washing machine or in your dryer and your socks and everything like will stick to the sides. I think this is very like visual, and a lot of people are very familiar with this. This is the color palette. I do quite like this color palette. I find it very clean and vibrant, which is I think what you want from a laundry brand. That said, without the darkest color, the three on the right are kind of giving Gen Z/Gen Alpha beauty brand. So it definitely needs a dark color to like weight it. I'm also finding maybe this pinky fuchsia to be like the pinky fuchsia equivalent of brat green. So I don't know if maybe it needs toning off a little bit or only ever gets used as a secondary color or something like that. But yeah, the visual stays, like the photography in this version stays the same. You start to see how this comes together from a creative perspective. Again, you see what this looks like in terms of paste ups. Still the idea of having a jumble, but this time it's a jumble of icons rather than the jumble of letters. The A-frame, the truck, the windows, the merch, again, more merch, and then some social. And then they actually did a concept to alt, and what this basically amounts to is a different color palette. Now, their thinking here is that the color palette, the idea is that I could own like a very distinct color and like own blue, for example. And the idea here is that it's a far more minimal one, and there's a very clean blue and then like a dirt brown. And it gives kind of more of an overall minimal color palette, but it's like that, it has that contrast between the cleanliness and dirtiness, and the colors that kind of sit in between. I do like the way this is coming together. Like I like the way it's I like the way it comes to life, and I like the way that stands out. My husband adores the blue and thinks that like it's very clean and ownable and things like that. My concern is that in the laundry category as a whole, I'm not sure that it actually is that distinct. I also think that it kind of feels a little bit like a Greek restaurant or like a cafe or something like that. I'm not sure that it is quite there for me, but I do love the idea of the blue and having like a distinct ownable color. I am aware that there are some other brands that have like a similar color as well. So I think I need to like marinate on this a little bit. Anyway, they are the ideas. They're the two side by side. They're kind of like the two concepts side by side. I have about 5 more days to consolidate my thinking on this and provide feedback. But yeah, overall, super excited about the direction that it's going, super excited about the way it looks. So just need to kind of, consolidate my thinking and go from there. Anyway, I will chat to you all soon. Please let me know if you've got any thoughts on this. I have 5 whole days, but I welcome thoughts on this at basically any time, because other than like changing big stuff, it's always editable. Cool. Thanks, guys. Okay, gang. I think we might have actually made some progress this week. I have proposals out on 2 properties, the 2 that I've shown you previously, the one with the courtyard and then the one with the no courtyard but better basement. So fingers crossed that we hear back kind of sooner rather than later. I've been told that essentially this stage, term sheet negotiation, can take like a month or 2, and then the actual lease negotiation can take another month or 2 before I sign a lease, and then I actually get to start doing something with it. So as I've said before, after I actually get the lease, it can take anywhere from kind of 7 is the lowest quote I've gotten to 12 months to actually build out the laundromat. So the sooner the better, basically. I've also this week gotten quotes on laundry bags from a bunch of different suppliers. I'm super excited about a couple of them. One of them actually uses, they're made in New York. And what they do is they get plastic bags, like the ones that you would get from a grocery store, and then they shred them into strips and actually weave them into kind of like into like a thread that is then woven into a bag. So super sustainable. I love that it's made locally, and the bags are actually freaking gorgeous. I'm going next week to go and speak with the owner and designer for the bags, so that's going to be incredible. I've also gotten a quote from an old friend of mine who lives in Australia but owns a production like company and everything in China, and they can use post-consumer recycled plastic to make polypropylene, like coated polypropylene bags. This is the kind of material that you would expect to see on like the IKEA blue bags, and they can also do custom bags for me. So quite excited about both of those. I've also got like a tech component to the bags, so like a wearable element that has to go into the bags to be able to pull off a particular consumer experience that I'm looking to deliver. But I've gotten quotes from both of those people, and they're looking quite doable, so I'm really excited about that. The other thing that I have gotten quotes on is the actual laundry supplies, and what I'm really happy to find is that I was very conservative in my allocation of costs for the laundry products that I would need to actually run the laundry service. And so because I was so conservative with the numbers, I've now got room to be able to provide people with a really great choice of products that they might want to use. So they'll be able to use like familiar supermarket kind of brand names that they're familiar with, all the way through to kind of quite bougie ones. And I'm really excited to be able to offer that level of choice and the caliber of choice included within our prices. So really excited to be able to get those back and like actually start to validate like properly and actually line up suppliers and all those sorts of things. On the skincare front, the battle continues for both a name and appropriate packaging. Next week I should actually get packaging like in my hand, some more samples. But next week I'm also attending an international trade fair that happens to be happening in New York on Thursday and Friday next week. I'm going to be going along to that. Obviously you will be coming with me. gives me a good opportunity to practice blogging in public. Yay. So quite excited for that, because I'll actually get to meet with like 20 or so different packaging suppliers and actually get to physically touch the packages and see what's possible and kind of get a price indication, all those sorts of things. So I think that's going to be unbelievably helpful. I'm also next week expecting to get another round of names that I can work through with my lawyer. So next week's shaping up to be a big week, particularly because I should hear back from the landlords for the 2 properties, and in any case, I'm going to be seeing some more next week too, to kind of keep the pipeline full. So big week next week. Feel like I've kind of made a bit of progress this week, which is fantastic. If anyone who's watching this has any thoughts, feedback, ideas, questions, I am more than happy to answer them. I know that I'm still a massively small time, I'm going to say creator of content, like this kind of content. I'm not really a creator full time, obviously. So I know not a lot of people watch this yet, but those of you who do, who have already sent me messages, thank you so much. It means the world to me to get kind of reassuring and encouraging and supportive messages from people all over the world. If you have any questions, thoughts, ideas, comments, anything like that, I would love to hear them. I really appreciate the value of having a lot of different perspectives on the work that I do, and I think that's one of the great things about going through this process. Anyway, I will see you guys next week. Bye.